In this course, I will be showing you how to prepare your character design and sculpts inside ZBrush ready for 3D printing and production. And this is how I go about when I finish my character. This tutorial is not about sculpting or designing, it's just about preparing your 3D characters that are done inside ZBrush and preparing them to export them as OBJ, and then STLs, and preparing them for your prototype 3D print, and also for production, keeping in mind things like molding, casting, and so on. So I want you to meet Rex. Rex is a character based on a sketch done by my daughter, because she designed this nice helmet. And I like the shape of it. And from there, it just went into this character that I think it came out pretty nice. And when I finish the character inside ZBrush, I try to lay down a couple of materials, just using the regular matte cap inside materials, inside ZBrush. Nothing too fancy. It just helps me figure out the colors, the proportions, and also helps me out when I go out and render it. And here you can see a super simple render inside Adobe Stager. This is what I use for rendering. This helps me visualize how those elements will look with light, and also I kind of plan ahead what type of paints I'm going to be using. For example, you can notice that these blue things are going to be metallic, and a metallic paint, and I know exactly the paint that I'm going to be using. And why am I telling you this? Because when preparing a model for prototyping or 3D print, or you want to just make a figure for yourself, you have to think about if you're going to paint this, you'll need to make, I try to make my life as easier as I can. So I will be when I plan the colors, I plan also what will be separate and what will be stay as one piece. These pieces are going to be separate here. Even this piece I'm going to be separate, because I want to have the the ability to paint that on its own. Also, to plan ahead, I'm always also going to have these separate pieces. And from my experience, I kind of hate painting soles on shoes, because no matter how careful you are with masking or everything, you kind of end up spilling some of that paint. So I'm going to splitting the soles on its own piece. As you can imagine, the ball, the hands, the watch, and it's going to be a bit more complex when we get to the head. So that's one. The head I'm going to be talking on its own, but for the big shapes, it's going to be the ears, the helmet with the head. This is going to be a bit more complex. Even this part, I want to try to make it on its own piece. So then, because I knew this piece is going to be metallic, and it's going to be way easier to paint. Now for the hands as well, I mean the arms, I'm sorry. For the arms, I'm also planning to have them separate. So I'm thinking this piece is going to be on its own, and then, all right, and then I'm going to have this piece be on its own, and then the hands are going to be on their own, and every one of them will have like keys. But this time, if you've seen any of my tutorials, I usually use the type of keys that you usually see in 3D printing, like your regular, cube kind of key. But for this one, I'm going to try something different. So if you've seen any of my other tutorials, you will see that there are similarities, but at the same time, I'm going to try to be a bit different. Now for the legs, as I said, I'm going to have these parts on its own, but using the straps, because if you go back to the models, because here we can see, we can look around, using the straps is, I'm going to use them like the seam lines. So you have to think of these. I'm trying to hide as many seam lines as I can. And now with an astronaut suit, it's a bit easier because you have those, sharp shapes, and that we don't have to worry about. For this one, I forgot to add the crease. So, because I went ahead and I didn't do any prep work. So this is usually how I work when I'm preparing my own models. The only prep work, because I didn't want you sitting here watching me rename folders and putting stuff in. The only thing that I did is I went ahead and I kind of split the parts knowing the plan that I showed you before. So if I go ahead and hide everything, we can go through them. So the tail is going to be on its own. So I'm going to have that as one piece. Then we're going to do so then we have here in the layers, we're going to have the shoes, which are going to have all these elements, but the soles were going to be separate. And then after that, these are going to be the knee pads. So this is usually when I call a character done inside ZBrush. That's the level that I get to. And if I'm not going into animation, I don't even bother UV mapping them. But what I do like doing is I really like having them in like low polygons. And if you've been working with 3D, you'll know that having them like these just makes your file sizes smaller, your shapes way sharper when you're working. So I always try to have and it gives me that level of control if at one point I decide to, because it's in ZBrush, there is like a rule, kind of like when you're modeling, you have this rule that you say it's easier to add stuff, detailed. It's harder to, go back to simplicity. So start with a simple cage, like having the hands, simple and polygons. Because then if I go dynamic, I can, take this to how many million polygons I want. And having that option helps a lot. So this way it's easier for me. So when the character is done, I just try to go in and name stuff. I've got to be honest with you. I don't do this every time. Like I don't name stuff if nobody's going to see them or if I don't send them to a client. But even for me, it helps to have them named. These are the hard surface that I told you that I'm going to be split. And for the arms again. So you get the idea. It's just I tried to keep everything, separate. Now you might be asking, what's that cube? When you save a tool inside ZBrush, ZBrush has the tendency to name the first tool the name of the file, and I don't like that. So usually I'll make a cube, and usually that cube is the cube that I'm going to be using to, add the size of the figure once we are done. Okay, so that should be it for all the prep work. And as you can see, everything is still in their low poly, kind of low poly and high poly stages. So we're going to go in and, merge stuff, decide how many, million polygons we'll have each one, and then we can start keying them. Let's start keying Rex, and we'll start with his shoes, because let's start with something simple, and then we can get a bit more complex. So as I said, I'm going to be, so let's go hide everything, and we'll just reveal our shoes. So for these, I'm going to take out the soles, hide those, and we'll, focus on these. Now, if you'll notice, I kept these separate. I always try to keep the subtools. I don't merge until I'm ready to, ready for UV or animation or 3D printing, because it gives me that option of just in case I need to go back and make any adjustments. So the first step you have to make sure is go around and make sure you don't have any gaps. It's what we call like a watertight model. So if you have any gaps between the shapes, then that might cause problems. And make sure you don't have any undercuts like these, for example. Like if you look at this from the side and see, we have this, which might cause some problems. So to fix that, we're going to go in, Control, click, and then keep in mind that one is the same. So I need to mask that one, and I'll just move it in a bit. This way I know that it's going to stay clean. And then do the same for this one. And click, control click. And then just with the gizmo, just move him just a bit so we don't have that edge anymore. Now then turn dynamic on. Make sure everything is looking good. And once I'm happy, I'm going to go ahead and apply this. I'm going to delete lower. And now I'm ready to dynamesh this. And when dynameshing, just usually go back and front just to make sure you have enough resolution so you don't lose any of the beautiful details that you added. So now we have that done. I'm going to go ahead and merge these two. So merge down, and then we have the front. And I'm going to apply for this. This one already has some. I'm going to delete lower because we don't need this subdivision anymore. And apply, delete lower, and then merge down. Okay, that resolution is more than enough. All right, so now I can move this out and it deletes the group. Now for these, I'm going to add dynamic and make sure do the same. What I want to have that nice sharpness around, but I want them to have soft because I like the look of how soft they feel. Now when splitting pieces, there are multiple ways to do it, and you have to think about how are you going to be painting these and how are you going to be keying these for gluing and so on. So what I'm thinking is I want to have these cut into the soles, so then it gives us like a nice seam line and inside them. And to do that, we need to make a couple of tweaks. And the first thing I need to do is I need to get rid of that part inside. And to do that, we're going to go ahead and do a poly loop. So we're going to select Z modeler, and inside here, we're going to make a loop here and make a loop there. Let me just change the color so it's easier to. And now for the inside, I'm going to do auto group, and I'm going to select these so they have the same group, and for these, same group. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and delete these. So we're going to delete hidden. So now that's our shape, and that's the shape that we are going to keep anyhow. Now you can go ahead and make like a clean closer here, but because I'm going to be deleting this anyhow, I'm just going to do close holes. And I'm not worried about that because it's not going to be visible anyhow. So if I do dynamic, see. So first thing we are going to be doing is move these to the bottom. You don't have to do this. It's just a way that my brain works. And I always have like the bottom part will always cut everything on top, and just the way it keeps. And usually I keep everything that I've keyed at bottom layers. You can add them into a folder as well. So now I want these to cut out of that. So I'll do live boolean. So what it's going to do is going to give us this. And I know it's not clean or doesn't look good, but just bear with me. So once I'm happy with that, I'll go ahead boolean and make boolean mesh. Make sure when you do boolean, make sure you have DSdiv. And if your meshes are dynameshed, you don't need that. But if, for example, this piece is has dynamic smooth subdivisions, and you need to make sure when you're doing make boolean mesh, make sure you have that on. Because if you don't, and you leave it as that, even though when you look at it here, it looks clean. If I do a live boolean and I do append, this is how it looks versus the one that you have subdiv zone. Just make sure if that happens, that's why. Okay, so once I have those done, what I want to do is I want to select this and have these as one UV map. And once I'm happy with that, I can just drag them in and just scale them down. All right, now if I unhide these, I can see how deep do I want these to be. And I think something around here, but because these are posed a bit different, so they're not symmetrical, I want to go and do auto groups so I can work on each one separate. So what I want to do is I want to do like a small indent, so it has like a V shape inside, so it slides easier into the piece. And always make sure you're looking at the piece that's going to be keyed into and making sure it's thick enough when you're cutting through it. So it's easier, and also if you don't add this lip, you're just going to have like a really thin, and I'll show you that in a second. I'll do a separate bit. So this is the one that has a V, and this is like a straight line, and you see how thick this looks. And sometimes this causes problems because then you have this area that might be softened sometimes. Sometimes this area, it's not sometimes, all the time, it's really hard to get in and sand. So to get rid of those problems, I just add a bit of a inside lip, and I think we can go a bit stronger with this one. So I'm thinking maybe something like that, keeping also in mind not to have any weird shapes. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and split this. I'm going to do split hidden, just so I can work on this piece on its own. Now, one of the other things that I like doing is I like cleaning these shapes so I have a nice clean shape. So I'll go ahead and do a Dynamesh first, and I might need a bit more. And then I'll go in and smooth it. Now, if you want, you can do Lightbox, a brush, smooth, and smooth stronger. It just saves you a bit of time when smoothing your pieces. And don't worry about this is going to be a bit smoothed out, like losing some of the edges, because then if you look at this, it's going to have like a nice soft look as if it's going through. And if you want, we can do a bit of inflate at the end. It just makes this shape spill out a bit. So now just going in and cleaning. If you want, you can, we won't need this, so if you want, you can just take a flat brush and have it fade in, because you don't have to deal with that. Or if you want, you can even fill it in. Now, as I said, you don't have to do this. You can get away with it especially if you are doing, you know, a one-off piece and you're, you know, or you're doing just a prototype that you're not sure if it's going to be ready. But coming from experience, and usually I like to save my a bit of headache, and I like to keep my files clean when it comes to 3D printing as much as I can. All right, now I'm not gonna do the other one because I'm gonna just do the same thing. So what I was meaning about inflate, so once you're done, you can go ahead and select inflate, put like a 1, maybe 2, and then as you can see, the material just spills out a bit and just adds that leather look to it. And once you're happy with that, this piece is going to be ready for cutting out of this, because once we have those, we can start cutting out of the. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do the second shoe, and then we can take it from there. I went ahead and cleaned the other shoe, so now we have both of them here. Just make sure these pieces won't affect. Just make sure you don't have anything that acts like an undercut or a lip if you want, because then if you have something, let's say, sticking out like this, and you use it to cut, you're gonna have that which might snap in and or break or whatever. So that's what I want you to take care of. Now for the other one, the next thing that I want you to do is, I think I need to add I forgot to add a inflate here. So I'm going to add an inflate here, and then I'm going to go ahead and do a Dynamesh again. And now we're using these to get out of the soles, and I always try to give it just a bit of distance between the two, so I'll duplicate that one to keep it. And for this one, I'm going to inflate it again for like maybe 2. And what it's going to happen is, if you look at this now, we're going to get just a slight gap, just in case, resin gets, because sometimes it deforms depending on heat, depending on how much you kept it into the IPA, and so on. So usually it really depends on your printer. It really depends on how much you want, how much distance you want to keep. I think maybe I'll add maybe another one, and now we should be ready for cutting. So now that we're done, we'll go ahead and Boolean. Make sure you have DSdiv on, and do make sure these have enough dynamic. Usually 4 and 5 are more than enough, and do a Boolean mesh. It's funny that how I told you about that, and I totally forget to turn it on. So turn DSdiv on and have make Boolean mesh. And now we'll do append. We have those, and go ahead and save. I'll usually save these just because sometimes I need to make sure ZBrush doesn't crash and I have the parts that I'm keying. Just preference, or you can go ahead and save it as a project, and then if you do the project, you can have everything in the back. The only problem with that is the files tend to get a bit bigger. So we'll go ahead and delete this. We don't need it anymore. This one as well. So now if we look at this, we have the shoes and we have the soles ready. Now, what I was saying before about, I don't know if I mentioned it, is let's say now we print this and we are ready to go to painting. what usually happens, and I don't know if you've seen those, they're like called crocodiles, I think, metal that you hold the pieces. The problem is, and I did this way too many times, is I kind of forget to keep like an edge that I can use, and I'll snap these here, and I'll have some, areas which have holes or they're not painted. So this time I can say I kind of learned my lesson. So I don't want that to be happening again. Like for these, I don't have that problem because they're going to be hollowed anyhow. So they're going to have holes here, and here we're going to have a hole for the pants, legs, and then inside they're going to be something I can catch it on. But with usually I have this problem with sole. So to fix that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a cylinder. Just make sure you don't have any. All right. So just resize that. And it kind of doesn't matter how far it goes into, because it's going to go into the shoe anyhow. So you can go, right? So you can make it a bit smaller. And I'm going to go ahead and I can split this so I can use it again. And you've seen that I've did the V lip. I'm going to do the same thing here, but flipped. Because from my experience, it's way easier to clean, and it just slides in, and I don't have to worry about, hard edges inside. And duplicate it. So we can use it to do our cutting. And the other thing that this will, oh, I forgot to unmask. This will help is also sometimes, because of material deformation, or maybe you left a bit more space, you might glue a piece and it's a bit skewed. So these kind of act up like, keys to make sure you don't have, that doesn't happen. All right. So now I can go ahead and merge these two. So I'm going to go ahead and merge, and I'm going to go ahead and duplicate them. Use the shoes, hide those. And now I want to use these to cut out of those. And again, inflate them a bit just to make sure you're safe with the material deforming and something like that, maybe a bit more. All right, so now I go ahead, do Boolean. Now for this, I don't need the sieve because if I do dynamic, they're going to be softened up, so I don't need them to be softened up, and these are not going to be visible anyhow. They're just more for like safety and making sure I'm getting a clean handle for the soles. So I can do make Boolean mesh, and I can append these now. So I can go ahead and delete these. I don't need them anymore. And now don't forget to delete the old ones. This one that we had before. We don't need this. And now merge these two. So these with the soles. So I'm going to go ahead and merge down. And I'm going to go ahead and do Dynamesh. So now we have the soles with the handles. Ready for printing. Now, sometimes, and feel free to skip this if you want, I'll go in and I'll clean the parts that I want them to be, and I feel that they need any, cleanup. It might not be, for this, for example, is a bit too, I don't like that sharp. And because I have smooth strong, I need to just give the intensity down, maybe about 15. Again, you can feel free to skip this. So I'm just cleaning it up. should be golden. I really hope you found this tutorial helpful, and if you would like to check out the course, there's a link in the description. It's 4 hours long, split into 29 highly detailed lessons in which I go into detail on how to key, split, and prepare your characters to get the perfect 3D prints. It would really help me a lot if you check out the course so I can create more courses. All right, see you in the next one. Bye.
Спасибо, Кадми.